Welcome to the Christmas edition of Studio Chatter. It's about time to get our kerchiefs and eggnog. Is everyone ready?
Yes.
I am ready.
Do you like eggnog?
I do. Eggnog with Sprite. That was a tradition growing up in my family. Well, my dad
Really?
made a concoction, okay?
Eggnog and Sprite.
There's special
A
eggnog.
concoction, yes, it was. So he did eggnog with Sprite,
Okay.
and then he'd put a little nutmeg, and then he'd get rum, like rum extract, and pour that in there.
I was
with
like,
a
wait,
little
the real thing?
No, I wish. Rum extract with some vanilla ice cream and just
with
mix
ice
that all
around.
up, and it would get a
Okay.
little fluffy, and we had that every Christmas day.
I feel like I need to try this.
Right? Isn't that a great concoction?
No.
I've heard
I think I think maybe the rum
Natasha's
extract.
not-
I used to think as a little girl that was bad. Like,
You were getting real rum.
yes,
Oh, and you got to drink it with
I
ice
did.
cream.
The only time
Yeah.
all year long that I ever remember
I just think
rum
it
extract.
smells weird, and it's like cheese curds to me. It's just
But
everything
all
about
mixed
it.
together.
Well, that's
the
why you
eggnog.
put-
But if you've never had it, then you definitely need to try it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's maybe even one of those things that you could sip like by age, or you could
Yes.
learn to love.
No, my son-in-law loves it.
Okay.
But most importantly, you need to have a moose mug.
this is true.
drink it out
This
of.
is true.
You
Yes.
should if you really
You
want to do
should,
the tradition.
if you want the real thing.
Just like Cousin Eddie, right?
Yes,
There you
yes,
go.
yes.
Oh my
Oh my God.
Ooh, sparkling rose.
It is not eggnog,
What?
but
And
it
orange
is
sticks?
better.
It's better for you.
It's
yeah.
better.
Better
It's
than
pink.
eggnog. Yes. Oh, I love these
All
cookies.
pink and red.
pink.
Oh, I know.
Someone else want to
Swirled.
pour this
Sure.
evening?
Yes.
Yes.
I do love orange sticks, guys. Okay, that's a tradition in our family.
Is orange sticks.
Yes,
Was it?
Or
At
do you
Christmas
do
time, my mom
the
would do them.
chocolate oranges?
and we do the chocolate
And then you
oranges.
do the chocolate oranges too.
Yes. So my parents used to put a real orange in our stocking.
Mine
but
too,
as I
yeah.
started to do my children's, I found the chocolate oranges
Were better?
So yeah, I unwrapped those and put a couple.
Put those
now
in
Bo
there?
was like, "What's gonna happen? Will Santa bring me my oranges?" It's like, hopefully he will.
Oh, yes.
So the orange sticks and the raspberry sticks, and is there another stick? I feel like there's a couple of them.
Isn't there a
Is there a
peppermint
peppermint? Totally remind me of my grandparents' house.
Yes.
So my
Yes.
grandpa would sit in his recliner with the remote and the box of orange sticks.
Right by
were
the
right
chair.
there. And yes, if you were special, special grandchild, you got to have, an orange stick.
We know
or two,
Natasha
yes.
was a special
Did you like it?
grandchild.
Well,
Did you
I
like
was-
it back then?
I
Did you
think so.
partake?
I mean, I think I probably transitioned. I like the raspberry sticks. I don't love orange so much. I don't know why.
Okay.
Maybe it's just a thing, but yes. Always the orange in the stocking and a dollar bill.
And a dollar
$1
bill.
bill.
Oh, I love that. My Santa put nuts and candies in it, and we had a nutcracker, like nutcracker.
Oh, and then
Yes.
you could literally crack them
your nut.
with. Yes. Be perfect.
Yes, the almonds and the walnuts.
The walnuts, yes.
But I did not do that. Our Santa growing up with our children did not do that.
Okay.
Okay, but do
We
you,
did candy.
You know the song about chestnuts roasting on an open fire? You know that song?
Yes.
So when we went to Europe, we tried the real, the
Oh,
chestnuts.
okay.
And
They were so gross.
were they?
Yes.
Okay, like
The people that came from Europe that immigrated here were like, we're gonna leave that right there.
that was horrible. So do they roast it with the shell on it, and then you crack it open?
Yeah, yeah.
But they were just.
But I wonder back then. I mean, the nuts had protein. They were probably like, this is
trying to make it
that's
like,
what you
taste
had.
better.
And even just their toys and stuff were just these little made out of shells. The shells from the nuts. They would make little toys with them
Little
because they didn't have a lot.
Okay.
Well, that
So-
makes me feel sad.
Along the lines with the nuts.
Yeah.
New topic.
Yep. Okay, so growing up, I felt like when I go back to those memories of childhood, like I would have to go to multiple grandmas. Like, and we would sometimes split it up, like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, but I felt like I was like trying to do multiples, maybe.
Okay.
So I remember at Grammy's house, she lived in a townhome, and my dad had 7 siblings, and we all had kids. We would
In a
all
townhome.
stuff in that townhome. It was 3 level, but her basement was unfinished. but she had a rug out. And I just
toys.
remember we would all gather and have this yummy feel. You know, it was this little teeny home. And we were all
Tight-knit.
stuck
Yes, I
in
love
there.
that.
And she would give us like something really simple. I can't even remember. It was simple, but I remember going down with my cousins into that basement and just playing. And I'm sure it was this big, right? But it just felt like beautiful and wonderful. Such endearing memories. Then I would go to my mom's side, and I remember my grandmother's tree was white flocked always, and then she had one of those colorful light wheels that would turn, and it would
Oh.
like make the tree colored like pink and blue and green.
Isn't that funny how you remember tree decorations from do you remember your grandparents' tree decorations?
Yes, so they were hand crocheted. She had crocheted all of her Christmas ornaments. And then I was trying to explain to my children the other day about an actual flocked tree, like the texture of the
A
tree.
real one?
A real one,
Yes.
yes. But my grandma also used like the can, like when you would
The
just spray
aerosol
it
can?
with yeah. And then she did all of the windows too, but all of it was very, very much homemade. But I mean, it was really cool if you had like a flocked tree. It was a live tree, then it was flocked. But do they even do that now?
I remember that my mom started getting a flock tree.
Okay.
Would go, our neighbors down the street did trees.
Okay.
And then you would pick out your tree, and then they would take it into their garage where they had this big thing, and then they'd spray it with the flock.
Yeah, okay,
And I
yes.
remember we felt pretty cool because we had a flock tree. But I have always had a green, but my girls, Mallory bought a flocked one.
Okay. Well,
I
most
didn't
Full
know
one.
they did that with real trees.
Oh
Yes.
yes. And if you had a live tree, I mean, everybody had a live tree.
Yes.
I mean, even if you went
Yes.
out and picked your own tree and brought it back, and then somebody did do the flocking, and I remember watering the tree.
Oh, yes.
Like you
That was
had
the
to have
worst.
water in the base, and then if you wanted to keep the tree alive, so your house didn't burn down during Christmas, then you would put aspirin, I think, into the
Oh my
water.
gosh,
do you remember
No.
this?
No,
to
I
like
do
keep
not
it
know
alive.
this.
And then I
Aspirin?
remember
A
I
baby
think it was
aspirin?
baby aspirin in the water.
Keeps
It did
the arteries
something-
not from clogging.
Maybe it makes
oh
it
my
like
gosh! But it was,
oxygenated or
the
something.
tree was always a thing though, right? Because they were
Yes.
live. So then if you went out to pick your own, then you might get sap all over. So then mom and
We
dad
would.
were like sticky
Pine gum.
and
I
fighting
used
about
pine
it.
gum every
Yeah.
year.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
And then when it was takedown time, if you had the flocking, then you had to wrap it in the big plastic thing, and dad was dragging it out of the house.
It was
so
horrible, and pine needles everywhere.
yes.
And just, I remember my first home, I did a real tree for a few
Okay.
years. And then our very first Christmas together, we snowmobiled up with some of our friends, and we got up there to cut down our tree, and we did not have an axe. But my husband had a shotgun because, of course, it's goose season or something. We shotgun down our first tree. It was,
This is the best story.
I was
Whatever
like,
works.
Whatever, threw that baby on. That, yeah,
Oh, my
country buff.
goodness.
But
I
that
love
was a
that.
good-
Wait,
that
how
was a
many
good story.
shots did it take?
I have no idea. I feel like he did one, and then I was like too scared, so I think he just like.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But that was a good memory.
So the decorations, okay, transitioning to Christmas dinner. Do you remember dinner at Grandma's house?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What do you remember?
The rolls, my
Okay.
grandma always made homemade rolls, and they were always the very best. And she had homemade jam. She did raspberry and rhubarb strawberry jam. And I've never been able to find her rhubarb strawberry jam recipe. And I'm really sad about that.
You need to find it.
It was my favorite, the rhubarb
makes my
strawberry.
mouth water.
And then she would do pies, but her pies were the like banana cream and the chilled pies, not the not a pumpkin
the
pie.
hot pies.
Not the hot pies, not the apple pie or cherry, and none of those. She just liked the crust and then the pudding and
Ooh, that
coconut
sounds
cream
yummy.
and banana cream pie.
And all of it was completely
delicious.
homemade. And I just
Oh,
remember, well, I grew up next to my grandparents. So being an only, like all of my cousins would come in and then we'd squish, you'd have the kids. The
Kids'
kids'
table.
table, yes, the card table, and they'd be set aside, but then everybody being squished together and eating the big meal. But I remember specifically too, even with that many people in such a small space, my grandma insisted that we still use like real
China.
I don't even know if it was China. Maybe it was even like Corral.
just her nice
But
stuff.
taking our
The
turn,
nice
like
dishes.
there was the whole line of somebody doing the dishes, doing the rinsing, and then you do the drying, and then you would do a whole thing again with the dessert. So
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Did you pass around like the potatoes, the gravy in dishes?
Yes.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Everything was at the table, and
Yeah,
you
it
pass
was a
it
buffet
around.
style. Now I feel like
You
we
dish
do
up and
buffet.
pass it around. Yeah, because
Yep.
now it's buffet. It's like, okay, everything's on the counter. You guys get up and do it.
it has
And then we
totally
sit
changed
down.
that
Right?
way. Yes.
But
yeah.
back in the day, you sat down. Even my grandma, like after a big crazy Christmas Eve, then Christmas Day, she would cook a full-on like ham dinner with mashed potatoes, and we would sit down formally. But
And then everything
Rhett's
was in
family
a
still
nice room.
does that. She does like a filet mignon on Christmas Eve, always mashed potatoes, all the dill. And as it's grown, we're like down to like 5 tables. We have to put all the kids at different tables, but it's kind of one of those traditions. Like the food just brings back all the memories of years past, and that does for Rhett's family. That was
So
I don't know,
much
something
fun.
that I really loved. But it was funny when we were younger, so we'd bar hop from like my mom to his mom, right? All the places. But then when his grandmother was still alive, we used to have to be at Grandma's house at 10 a.m. on Christmas Day. And his aunt had never been married, and she would do a fishing pond for the kids.
Oh,
and
how cute.
It was so cute, but she would gather like chips and bananas and like just all these random snacks and put them in like trash bags, like a kitchen trash bag. And then they had like the sheet, and then you'd throw over your hook, and then she'd put one of these
remember
big
the trip.
bags and come back. And yeah, sometimes the fruit wasn't so good anymore.
That was old 3 days ago or a week ago.
I did not continue that tradition, but it's something fun that
So
I
what
look
about
back
new
at.
traditions?
Yeah.
What are you doing with your family now? So now we're buffet style, so that's changed. Some of us
Do
are
you like
using-
that more, buffet style? Is it
I think
because
it's easier
Because it's
we're
easier.
multiple tables and
Yeah. Because then it's hard to how do you pass around?
then we can keep it warm in like crock pots and stuff like that if we're doing multiple.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just don't want to have to wash extra dishes because you cook it in one, and then they would put it in this nice, pretty dish that was passed around the table.
that you would then do.
That you would then
But I even
dishwash, hand
remember,
wash.
like the blocks of butter being like at each of the little tables, and then the salt and pepper there, and I mean,
That
it was just
nostalgia of like the 50s, how they were raised and how they did stuff is just so awesome.
Oh, do you even remember maybe even going to Christmas parties at your ward and the crocheted little bags that you would take your dishes?
No,
no?
I'm not remembering that.
Okay, you would take your own dishes
Yeah.
to like the ward party, and you would carry them in your own little container. And it was kind of the buffet style, maybe
my
then.
The
but-
oven mitts were crocheted, though.
I do
Yes,
remember
yes.
this. I do. Let's see. Okay. Christmas traditions that I've continued. My mother did breakfast for dinner,
Okay.
and we loved it. Like pancakes or waffles and hash browns and eggs and bacon. And we used to have that Christmas morning. Then as we started to get married, when we would come together, she would still do that as a meal because we all loved it and missed that tradition of being at her home Christmas morning. I have continued that with my kids now. So I get them, I get my marrieds either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and we've decided no matter which day it is, we will cook the same meal.
It's a breakfast.
Breakfast for
love
dinner.
that.
Yep. So
Breakfast for dinner.
that is really fun. And then something that I just want to bring up about Studio Chatter. So 5 years ago, my mother passed, and the evening before she passed, we filmed our Christmas episode down at the Riverwoods, and it was just a really magical, like kind of spiritual night for me. And we met Santa, who was a little bit funny, and then we took our lovely picture by the fire, which
Yes.
was just, I hold that picture near and dear because it reminds me of her. But that year when she passed, my sister carried on my mother's tradition of making stained glass, which I feel like is a lost art.
Wow.
And she made us all that year an angel to remember our mother. And we had my mom do her thumbprint on a card, and we copied that off for everyone and gave it to him. And then this year was her 5 years of passing, and me and my little sister were just both struggling, and we decided to do this silly boutique that neither one of us had time for. But we started doing the stained glass, and we're like, it was Mom. Mom needed to be a part of our Christmas story. So that is just a really neat tradition and something sentimental.
That's
that
very
always
neat.
remember.
So
Yep.
cool.
She's our
I
angel.
do remember that
Yep.
evening, and I still love that picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
It has all the feels. It was really neat, really magical. Do you guys have any others that stand out to you? Christmases or?
Well, we're still doing our traditions.
Okay.
So we kind of do a girls' night overnight in Salt Lake City. We go to the Nutcracker. So my mom is still participating, and we're doing the matching clothes.
Did you
We're-
two do it growing up together too?
No.
Like before Barrett?
Nope, it's kind of all started with Barrett. So we started taking her, and then we kind of invited some others into the circle that maybe they have lost their moms. And it's grown a little bit, but it's kind of our thing, and we love it.
I love that.
So
I love
girls'
starting
night
a new
out into the
tradition.
Nutcracker. I love the Nutcracker.
I do too. It's magic, right?
It is. It makes me think of all the movies, the Christmas movies, and some of my favorite ones was watching like the Mickey Mouse with Mr. Scrooge.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So I loved that one. It was short, but I just rewatching that just reminds me so much of Christmas because we always watched the cartoons and the old Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer
my
that
gosh.
looked like claymation.
Yes.
What was that? That was
Yes.
Isn't that great how those movies like throw you back?
my kids
Totally.
watch them. Even my kids watch them now.
Totally nostalgic. All right. Well, one of our favorite Studio Chatter traditions is getting to visit with the head elf. We have an appointment.
Let's go.